Time to have a chat with Dr. Gillian Arendse, who is here from iThemba Labs. But before we do, listen up. At the very tip of Africa lies iThemba Laboratory for accelerator-based science, the largest accelerator facility in the southern hemisphere and the only cyclotron facility on the African continent. iThemba Labs offers unique research capabilities to local and international researchers. As a national facility of the National Research Foundation, iThemba brings together competence and skills within a multidisciplinary environment to advance knowledge, transform lives, and inspire a nation. The Cape Town facility is in addition to perform fundamental and applied research, also producing radiopharmaceuticals for the diagnosis and treatment of cancer. iThemba Labs is where basic science comes to life, a place where real people are using science in various ways to impact the lives of every South African. Visit their Facebook page, iThemba Labscape, or email them at director@tlabs.ac.za. Dr. Gillian Arendse, very welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, Johan. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm doing well, brother. I mean, the weather is good. Some people might complain that it's too cold, but I think for me, it's all good. Thanks for having me.
Fantasties, Dr. Gillian Arendse. En my naam is Johan Falk. Dis die Arend en die Falk wat hier gesels vandag.
Ja, vandag vlieg ons hoog.
Lekker. En we're going to have a chat about a National Science Week. Tell us more about that, please.
Well, National Science Week, it's a week that we take out as South Africans, and we basically try and connect with as many young people as possible. And this year, the theme for the Science Week is, to celebrate the role that basic science plays in the contribution that it makes to modern life. So we as a research facility obviously wants to also try and impact local communities, local schools. And we just want to make sure that kids understand why they're doing these things, these subjects called mathematics and physical science in school. Where does it fit in?
Fantastic. And what is iThemba Labs?
Well, iThemba Labs, the word labs is actually an acronym or an acrostic that's short for the Laboratory for Accelerator-Based Science. So basically what we do is we use an accelerator, which is a big machine. So maybe some of the listeners have heard of the Large Hadron Collider, which is the one in Europe, France, Switzerland. So we have a cyclotron. It's a big machine. And we use the machine to make small things go very fast. So our biggest machine, if we put in a proton, we can give it an energy that allows it, in principle, to travel 4 times around the Earth in 1 second. So you're talking about small things going very fast. And then we either use them to do basic science, or we produce what we call radiopharmaceuticals. So we make medicine that gets used to either diagnose cancer or treat cancer. And iThemba Labs has been around for more than 30 years, but I think very few people know about us.
Yeah, so just for everyone listening in from the Western Cape, iThemba Labs is situated near the Universal Film Studios, and that's where they shoot also a lot of laboratory and hospital scenes, am I right?
Yeah, in the past we've hosted a couple of film crews, but obviously if it impacts our operation, then it's something that we probably try and steer away from. But yeah, wherever you can make a bit of money and pump it back into schools, why not?
On that note, how does iThemba Labs contribute to the betterment of lives?
Well, as I said, I think the one thing that people will probably be able to relate to is the use of radiation to improve lives, right? So it's specifically, if you think about cancer, if you can detect cancer earlier, then you can treat it earlier. So one of the ways is to either produce stuff with which we can trace. And typically, when you go to a hospital, you would be injected with an isotope. And then they use a fancy camera to see what's going on inside the body, even though they don't have to basically cut you open, to find that out. So that's the application in terms of radiopharmaceuticals, but we also have a group that's actually involved in trying to understand the interaction between radiation and biological systems. And I think one of the interesting studies is related to elephants, where they are trying to understand why it is that elephants seem to be resistant to cancer.
Interesting. And you are encouraging learners to consider taking mathematics and physical science in school. How is iThemba Labs doing that, and how are they collaborating with all the educational departments, etc.?
Yeah, so we've got a dedicated team that we call our science engagement team, and they go to primary schools basically to do science shows and just to show that science is an everyday phenomenon. Or we go into high schools where we offer workshops. And what I've also in recent times tried to do is to actually even connect with teachers. I think there are lots of teachers who are tired And sometimes there's the need to just go in and bring, a different perspective and maybe a little bit of hope. So that's what we try and do through our science engagement activities. But I think a lot of kids nowadays don't want to do these subjects because there's perception that they are difficult. But we sometimes say to ourselves and to other people that, you have to go through challenge if you want to grow. So if challenge is what we need, then we probably have to go for these kind of subjects that force us to be creative and to be critical in our thinking.
I've been a teacher myself, and I always find that playing on their curiosity is probably the best idea. Like what you just said, with a proton, you find small things go fast around the Earth. A proton that goes around the Earth 4 times
in 1 second.
So if there's ever a superhero being created, it's going to be in iThemba Labs, eh?
Well, yeah, but I mean, in the bigger scheme of things, we could say, we're still the small fish, compared to what they do at the Large Hadron Collider.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So maybe we go up to about 56% of the speed of light, but at the Large Hadron Collider, they go up to 99% the speed of light.
Amazing.
It's just a different game.
We are almost talking about teleportation here.
Well, we're pushing the frontiers of our understanding, and I think it's important for young kids to understand that the reason why we do mathematics is because mathematics allows us to go into this abstract world. We live in a world where we can see things and touch things, but if you want to go into this world where you imagine, then the only tool that takes you there is math.
And it's almost like math is the key to making sense of magic.
There we go. Yeah. So you observe something, you build a model, you do your calculations, you get an answer, you interpret it, and then you take it back to your original setting.
Amazing. And then you guys are also the only producer of certain things in the world, of which is the 22 Na. What does that stand for again?
That's sodium.
Yes.
Natrium in Afrikaans. Yeah.
I've got to catch up on this stuff on the periodic. Okay, so tell us more about that. How is that possible? Why are we the only or iThemba Labs the only producer?
Well, I mean, we produce our isotopes with what we call an accelerator. The other role player within South Africa would be Nexa or NTP, and they produce their isotopes with a reactor. Right, so it's a different technology in a sense, and therefore you are able to do different things. But with the sodium-22, I mean, we're the only people who actually bombard that target, and therefore it creates an opportunity for us to export that product. And because we export, we can generate some income. And then because we have an accelerator, we produce iodine 1, 2, 3. And of course, iodine is something that gets taken up by the thyroid. So if you want to do studies of the thyroid, you would use iodine as the tracer to try and see whether there could be some cancerous growth happening there.
Amazing. And then the other thing is that you're also the only producer of the that's an I-23 in SA, right?
That's right.
But also the only accelerator facility on the African continent.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's who are the other ones except for the big?
Well, there are a couple of them all over the world. So you'll find them in Europe often. Obviously, there'll be a lot of them in America. There's some big guns. Australia, Japan, and because we are a national facility that's very strong in terms of connecting with the world, we actually have a network that allows us to tap into opportunities at some of those facilities. And we either have researchers that either go there to conduct research, or we have collaboration teams coming from abroad to use our facilities, because I think there are some things where we are unique in terms of what we can offer. And there are lots of people who actually come over here to use the technology. But I think it's important for people to understand that you have this place. It is in the Western Cape. We also have a campus up in Gauteng, Johannesburg. And I think it's just becoming aware of what do we have, and how we can use that to not just improve the lives, but to train the next generation of scientists and critical thinkers.
So for all the parents out there, for all the wannabe science buffs and the next Einsteins of South Africa, how can they make contact with you? How can they get involved if they have a knack for these things?
Well, I think the easiest would be maybe to visit our website, www.tlabs.ac.za. Or pop us an email, either director at TLabs or to CISE, CISE at tlabs.ac.za. And often, I think what we used to do prior to COVID and lockdown, we used to host people during our open day, because that's the time when the machine is switched off. And because obviously we deal with radiation, we know that the younger the body, the more susceptible you are to radiation. So often when we get younger groups or young kids, we can't necessarily take them into the spaces or into the vaults where we do the experiments, but we are allowed to show them other areas. So it's just about extending an email to us, and we will create a program that addresses some of the issues. But as I said, we are also open to visit schools and to maybe bring some of our scientists, because I think it's important maybe for young people to also see that, the scientists aren't just the people in the textbooks. They are real, in a sense, superheroes. And some of them live in Somerset West.
100%, and that's amazing. We are really excited to talk to many of them who lives in this Helderberg Basin area in the coming weeks. Really excited about that. But also iThemba Labs is a place where school-based science comes to life. So if you're listening to this, send your questions to cise@tlabs.ac.za, and we hope to use September, Dr. Gillian, to focus on the AIF project. That's the South African isotope facility in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for joining us today here on HFM Helderberg FM 93.6. It's been an honor and a privilege to talk to you, and I'm looking forward to learn a bit more about iThemba Labs.
Thanks for the invitation.
Have a fantastic day.